Hello and welcome, everyone. I'm Ryan James with the Path of Recovery, joined as always with my best friend Trevor.
What's up, guys? This is episode 1 of the Path of Recovery podcast. Today we're going to be, talking about my story, my path to recovery. I'll start off a little bit back, how things started, and then kind of skip ahead because I don't want to get into too many of those horror details.
Yeah, we're going to try and stray away from the horror stories, and we'll cover some stuff. I'd imagine, as we're telling our story, it will be like, well, to add context to this, this is what happened
Right.
this one time, and like we'll be able to cover a lot of things.
And I wanna put it out there now. Like, I'm not saying my story is the worst story ever. To me, it is.
Yep.
But I know that there are people who everybody's gone through something worse than me. That was one thing I had to realize before before I got sober, before I started cleaning up. I felt a lot like trying to feel bad for myself.
Right.
That's how you gotta not do that.
Yeah.
You gotta worry about yourself, but don't make yourself a victim, I guess.
Yeah, that was a big thing, and that's what's going to be cool about having guests on the show is everyone's going to have their horror stories to share, like what they've gone through, and
right. What? Excuse me. What I'm excited about is seeing what made them decide that they had a problem.
Yep.
And the path that they took to better themselves, and what they do to stick with it.
Yeah, I'm excited to hear those things too. I'm also real excited to hear all the different ways people had gotten clean, whether it be a 12-step program or going to a rehab or just kicking it cold turkey.
Right.
Yeah. And because there's so many paths to get where you're going.
Yeah.
And people got to realize it's never too late. You're not hopeless, and you are important.
Right.
Anybody that's struggling or going through anything right now, and they're listening to this and listening to our podcast and our stories, our guest stories, it's never too late. And don't give up hope. There's always people out there to reach and contact if and when the time comes for you to get clean.
Yeah, you'll know when your time is. That was one thing that I had to realize real quick was I kept saying I wanted to get clean. I knew that what I was doing wasn't right, wasn't good for me, wasn't good for anybody around me. But deep down, I don't think I really wanted it at the time, because I remember I would stop using for a couple days and then okay, I got this, so one time isn't going to hurt, and then off way worse. And that kept happening. I mean, I went to rehab and thought that I had it taken care of there. I was really, really excited that I finally had made the decision to go to rehab. I mean, the problem with my decision to go was that it was a court-ordered decision.
Well, we'll back it up here a little bit.
I skipped way ahead.
We'll go. We'll start out with what was your drug of choice or drugs of choice?
Well, I started off. I'm gonna go back even a little bit further than when I started using those particular drugs. Growing up, I want to start off, I guess, by saying that drugs or addiction doesn't discriminate. Like, anybody anybody, I don't care what background you have or the color of your skin or how you were raised, everybody has an equal chance of getting brought down by an addiction of some sort. You know, I was raised in a good home, good family. I had pretty decent friends growing up. Uh, Nobody was using drugs and stuff for the most part, or that I knew of. Um, no family that I knew of then had any addiction problems. You know, I found out later on in life, like alcohol is a problem, kind of, but it was never around me. Um, so going forward, you know, some tragic things had happened with friends of mine, people I spent a lot of time with, and I guess I started drinking a lot to kind of forget about that stuff
Yeah.
and having.
How old were you then?
I was 15.
15?
Yeah. I think I had just turned 16. I left home and moved out to the little town that we all hung out in.
Yep.
And started drinking a lot there. Like, I mean, I was drinking before that, hanging out with other friends, and I mean, this was an opportunity. I wasn't living at home anymore, so I was really drinking heavily every day.
You were going to school at that time.
I don't think I was.
You were skipping.
Skipping
school.
Yeah, so I wasn't really.
Yeah.
I wasn't really going to school then.
Right.
I mean, I should have been in school.
Yeah, I remember sometimes you'd come to. I was working at the K Cafe at the time.
Yeah. I'd go
And you
there.
and Colton
Yeah.
would cut class and come to Kmart, pick me up.
That was quite often. Cutting
Yeah, it was
class.
almost like every other day I saw you there.
Yeah. Yeah, that's not good.
Yeah.
I never really thought about that, but yeah.
Mm.
Then I
Yeah,
dropped out of school.
Yeah, you dropped out of school and you were going and drinking and
Yeah.
partying.
Yeah. Partying a lot. Like, didn't really do any drugs then, though. I mean, I smoked pot, so yeah, I did drugs. Occasionally, if somebody brought something around, I would try it.
Yeah. What was your first experience? Like, when was the first time that you did a drug besides marijuana? That was, because a lot of people did that growing up, smoking pot.
Yeah.
But when was it a transition into doing pills?
Well, the first time I had done any opiates, I guess, was I think I was 16. Had tried some Suboxone somebody had offered a little bit of, and puked and puked and puked and thought, why the fuck does anybody ever?
Yeah.
Why does anybody do this shit? And then I think we were partying one night, and I'd done some benzos of some sort, benzodiazepine. Not like, it wasn't Xanax. I think it was like Klonopins.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's a benzo or not, but
Yeah, it is.
same effect. And then didn't really care for that then either. I mean,
No.
I was drinking, so that's what I cared about. But ended up having appendicitis, and went to the hospital, had my appendix taken out, and that then was really where I started using painkillers, because
It was prescribed to you.
it was prescribed to me. Yeah, that I think is like the number one problem, one of the number one causes of an opiate addiction. It was prescribed to me.
Well, back then they were giving it away like Skittles.
You go to the hospital with a toothache back then.
Yeah,
And
an
you leave with-
Examine
Yeah,
did that. I remember she had gone to the ER for a toothache, or she
Yeah.
was going to get her wisdoms out or something,
right.
and they gave her like 70 perks
Oh yeah, yeah. That's
for a toothache.
right. That's what was stupid.
What?
Like, that I think is one of the biggest causes of the epidemic we have right now.
Well, that, and they suddenly stopped prescribing pills. Like, they were like, the ER wasn't giving them out, nobody was giving them out, so they had to turn to the
That's when
streets.
right. That's
get
when
their
the
stuff.
yes, that and then and then that got harder because they stopped giving out so many prescriptions, and
Yep.
then that became the rise of the heroin epidemic we currently have.
Yep.
Yeah, that's what.
Yep.
I'm trying to find something real quick here. To
Yep.
I want to bring up a statistic.
And this is just, coming from speculation that we've lived through it. A lot of people started the same way around here, being prescribed from a hospital and then getting that supply cut off. So they were going and buying off the street.
And the way that it was cut off was in a way that
It was abruptly.
right, and then people are like pill sick. They don't know what that is, but they realize it happened. That's what happened with me. I didn't realize after my prescriptions had run out and they stopped giving them to me that that is why I felt the way I did, like the whole hangover thing and shit. And I had just happened to be around people who were abusing prescription painkillers for 20 years.
Yep.
And they told me why I felt that way and helped me get more prescription painkillers, and that's all she wrote, man. That turned into every day, not doing a whole lot of them, but eventually it was $100 a day on painkillers.
Yeah.
And
then you got into the bigger stuff.
yeah, just snorting a few painkillers, mostly Percocets and stuff. And then in 2009, April 20th, 2009, I got into a car accident where I was pretty hurt. I was flown down to Bangor, and when I left there, I had surgery on my arm. I had damaged a lung, so I was pretty sore from that. Rib, whatever. I smashed my head real hard.
And the accident was caused by these benzos.
Yeah.
That you were doing.
Yeah, because see, the benzos then weren't really. I didn't consider them a problem then. I mean, they were. I shouldn't have been doing them. But it was that day, 420. Took it a little bit overboard, and actually, I was on a different painkiller then that was prescribed to me for knee pain. My doctor had given me tramadol.
Yep.
And because of the way that they worked, I took way too many of them. The combination of the two just didn't work out. So where I was working, they sent me home because I was passing out at work and got into an accident a mile or two down the road.
Yeah. Yeah, I know you didn't make it too far.
No, not. I didn't even make it off of the base
where
I was working.
No.
But the surgery that I had when I was in the hospital, it was morphine on a drip. Then they would come in every so often and put another shot of another painkiller in the IV. Then they'd bring in Percocets for me to take by mouth and Oxycontin to take by mouth. So
oh wow, they were just
drugging,
loading you right up, huh?
They were loading me up in there. When I left the hospital, they actually accused me of having a drug problem then, even though they were doing this.
Yeah.
So
I mean, you did get into an accident.
Well, yeah,
know.
Yes.
At the time, though,
right.
You didn't think that
right, at the time, I didn't think I had a problem. I knew what I was doing and this and that, but no, I didn't accept it as a problem then. So when they accused me the way that I looked at it then, the accusation that I was a drug addict pissed me off so bad I took myself out of the hospital. But I told them, okay, give me my prescriptions and the paperwork, I'm leaving. Oops. And they did. I left with a huge prescription of Oxycontin. I left with a huge prescription of Percocets. I don't remember if there was any others, but these were 3-month prescriptions that they for a broken arm, essentially.
That's crazy.
Yep. I think the oxys were a month. I can't remember exactly, but it was a lot of pain drugs for a broken arm. And where I was staying at the time wasn't the best environment to be bringing that to.
Right.
Um, Basically used up all those drugs, the oxys. The neighbor had an intravenous drug problem. I don't know why that word just didn't come to me.
It's because it sounds weird.
Yeah, well, you wouldn't think it's a word I'd forget, but
And I from what I remember, I think you guys had gone over there to
we went.
went over there to yell at the guy. Or not.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wouldn't have yelled at him, but
No, because yelling at him would have
yeah, it would have created a
a
lot
lot
bigger
of problems. But I did talk to his landlord about what he was doing, but his landlord was also somebody getting these painkillers from me.
Oh, yeah,
So-
it was a big circle.
Right. And so we all kind of went there one day to talk to him, and he's like, "You guys want to try it this way?" And at that time, all three of us had tried my oxys intravenously, and it was downhill from there. Like,
Yeah.
it was already a downhill slope. You wouldn't think it could get any lower at that point. You know, I wasn't really hurting at that point. I didn't hurt my family, I don't think. I don't know if I don't think I really brought my family into this at that point.
Right.
Up until then, like, they knew that there was something up because of the accident and this and that, but I don't remember it being a huge problem until then. That day
Started it all.
started the worst
Yeah.
me I could ever be, and wow, I regret that.
Yeah. Well, we'll skip ahead to when was it that you had reached kind of the ending point where you went into recovery, or when you decided to go into recovery? Like
The first time, the second time, like
the final time.
the final time. All right.
Like, because I know you went to like a rehab facility.
Went to the
Like,
crisis center.
What led up to getting into that recovery?
All right. I left. I'm gonna go start with leaving the rehab. I left there thinking I had all the tools. I mean, they gave me a lot of tools mentally to use, and they were all great. I left there right back into the place where all the trouble started.
Right.
And that's the first mistake, is not to get away from the people that you were around that contributed to your problem.
I think that's like the step 1, 2.
One of them,
Well, I mean, step 1 is realizing you got a problem, but
right,
once you go into recovery, you got to stop talking to
right,
the circle.
Yeah, it's hard to, especially my connection to
Yep.
a majority of these people. That was the biggest part, was I couldn't leave where I was living. I could have, but I didn't feel like I could have at the time.
Yeah.
Anyways, so the reason why I'm not going right ahead to where you had asked is
Yep.
because I want to get to this point of, you have to make sure that when you're ready, you kind of rewrite all your friends. You know, these people weren't your friends. They were just there. Now, I thought that these people were my friends,
Mhm.
and then they handed me a loaded needle. After I'd
Yeah.
spent
after
a
you
month
got all that.
in rehab, I was probably clean 3 weeks or so after, which isn't a lot, but it was an accomplishment in my mind.
Well, yeah, considering what you just walked away from.
Right, years of that.
Yeah.
And then they hand me a loaded needle, and I don't even think I hesitated, because I
No.
was like, just one time's not gonna hurt.
Yep.
And then it was a second time that same day, and then the next day, and the next day, and it just snowballed again, except this time even worse. At one point, I damaged a nerve in my arm, and I thought I was going to lose my arm, just
I
because.
remember your whole arm was swelled.
Yeah, my arm was just, it was painful. My whole arm, to go out in the cold was painful. I always put on a big wool coat, and I'd put a heat pad in there, um, just to try to keep my arm warm and not painful. That freaked me out for a second. Anyways, so there was that. I was slowly pushing away Taylor, my girlfriend. That was another thing that she was everything to me. Even she stuck with me through the whole thing. And I felt like I owed it to her. I owed it to myself. I owed it to my family.
And she wasn't a user anyway.
No.
Once in a great while, maybe
once in a great while, and that was maybe with some persuasion to try something, which is a horrible thing to do to anybody.
Right.
And she would drink a little bit. She would smoke pot.
Yeah, but it's nothing, anything ever serious.
Right. She didn't have it in her. It's not in her makeup to be an addict. Everybody can become an addict, but she just she grew up with it and didn't like it.
Yeah, she.
But moving on to what made me make the decision was seeing what was happening to my family, what was happening to Taylor. I wanted something better. I didn't want to die this drug addict. I knew I was raised different, and I couldn't see myself just destroying any more lives.
Yeah. Denial's a big part of what keeps a lot of people from getting clean.
Definitely.
Is the denying they got a problem, or they can stop anytime they want, or they're not hurting anybody.
Right. Once you start seeing the damage you're doing to people, that, it hurt, and it still hurts to think about.
Yeah. And then you'd use to cover up.
Oh, yeah. You'd use more to...
Yeah, you'd use more to... It's a vicious cycle. You'll get depressed, and because you don't have drugs, and then you'll go and rip somebody off or steal or figure out a way to get what you need, and then you'd be using to cover up feeling bad for having to get the money in the first place or the ways that you did it. So it's a vicious cycle of using and being numb, and then you keep causing damage and damage and damage. And
it's a never-ending cycle of pain and misery, and any addiction is like that. If you're addicted to something, most addictions are like that.
Yeah, most.
After getting clean, I've got an addiction to, because I've got an addicted personality. I can't seem to help it.
Well, you turn bad addictions into good hobbies.
Well, yeah,
because it's every hobby that you've done or gotten into has kept you from
right
all those drugs.
I just spend way too much money on these hobbies, but it's because it helps me. It helps me.
It's better than spending the money on drugs.
Oh yeah,
you have something to show. You have something to show for it.
Right.
But your arm was. We'll get back on point here.
Yeah.
Your arm was all messed up, and you wanted something better for you and Taylor.
Yeah, and my family. I mean, it was hurting everybody. So I went and got on. I was seeing a counselor then. I started seeing a counselor then. I got on Suboxone at that time, which anybody listening that doesn't know what Suboxone is, it's like methadone. It's given to addicts to help with the withdrawal symptoms, but it itself is an opiate, and a powerful one at that.
Yeah, well, I bet you we'll have an episode where we discuss.
Oh yeah,
just Suboxone.
Yeah, because
from the perspective of a user.
Oh yeah, I'm sure, because I'm sure that 90% of the opiate users that we talk to have been on Suboxone
or tried it.
At least. Most of them have probably tried it.
Yep.
Anyway, so I was put on 16 milligrams of Suboxone, which is
A strip.
yeah. Well, yeah. That's the last time it was strips. Before it was pills,
Yeah, it's
which
like two.
which I would shoot up then.
People do it with the
With strips too,
too.
yeah. And I did for a while, even when I had first gotten on them. No wait, it was the first time I was on the strips that I was doing it that way.
I think the second time you were.
The second time I was on the strips, which was the third time I was prescribed Suboxone, I started taking them as I was prescribed them,
Yep.
which was 16 milligrams a day, which is an outrageous amount of Suboxone for anybody.
Well, yeah.
I don't care. I was taking 3 or more Oxycontin 80 milligrams pills a day. So, anyways, enough Oxycontin to kill an average person probably. Just to feel normal, and then I'm taking these, and it was just outrageous. The feeling. It was like taking more than I would normally take in a day.
Yep.
And then you start working up a tolerance for that. So it got to a point anyways where I started turning more towards marijuana as kind of a cure-all for myself at that time. I started smoking more pot than I did previously. As I was working my way down, weaning myself down on the Suboxone.
You were on probation at the time.
I was on probation then, yes. So, and that was from
Drug charge.
drug charges. Yeah, a couple of years prior to that.
Yep.
Um.
I was there.
Oh yeah, you were there when
I
I
was in
got
the
that
car.
first charge. Yep.
Yeah.
They told you to walk, I think.
Yeah, and they made Ed throw his.
Rocks.
He had collected some rocks for his daughter, and he
Yeah.
was all threatened by
That
rocks.
that cop.
That
was,
cop was a dick.
Oh yeah, like I've got respect for police now.
Yeah.
That guy,
No.
zero respect.
That guy was just
he
an
wanted to fight. Like,
Oh yeah, dude. His,
put
his
you in
vein
handcuffs,
was
and he wanted to
fucking
fight.
hanging out of his neck the whole time, yelling.
Yeah,
you know
oh,
what
yeah.
I mean? You got an ID?
And I was like nothing but honest with him. Like,
Yeah.
what's in your pocket? Drugs.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I was busted, but I was still treated like a horrible person.
Oh yeah.
Anyways, that's a whole
Yeah.
different topic.
But yeah, you were on probation. You were
I was on probation.
turning to marijuana.
I was turning to marijuana. Towards the end of probation, I was on, I think, down to 1 strip, if I'm not mistaken. I can't remember exactly, but I think I was weaned down to that as my prescription. But over time, I was weaning myself down because the doctor that I was seeing just didn't have confidence in me for whatever reason. They want you on Suboxone. It felt like he wanted me on Suboxone forever.
It feels like they're just throwing a Band-Aid on a huge wound.
Right, and they
You
don't
know,
want
and
the
thinking
wound to
that-
heal.
Yeah. You know, they're just...
I'm not saying this about the counselors. The counselors are great in what they do. And if the counselor believes you should be on Suboxone, that's why you end up on Suboxone. Or methadone. I don't know if they even do methadone around
Yeah, they
here.
do. Bangor.
But then the doctor in charge of the prescriptions is where the problem lies, I think.
Yeah.
Especially the private practice that I was going to. He told me when it was coming up towards the end of probation, I asked him to wean me down more, and he told me that you're going to be on this dose forever.
Yeah,
Like,
he told you you're going to be on it for life.
Yeah, you're never going to come off of that dose, or you're going to fail. Like, and that to me was like a fuck you.
It was like
Yeah.
a motivation.
Oh, yeah.
Motivated you.
You're not going to fucking tell me. I'm asking you to take me off a little bit more and a little bit more, and you're telling me I'm going to fail? No. No, that pissed me off. So I failed a drug test at probation
For
at that time for the Suboxone and the marijuana.
Yeah.
So I was told then, because I didn't tell him I was on Suboxone, I was told then to, I gave him the prescription. He okayed that. He asked about the pot. I said, well, it helps me with ailments. Okay, then I'm going to give you a chance by the end of next month or the beginning of next month. You have to have a prescription of that or I'm going to revoke your probation. And I was devastated, like 2 years of probation, no problems. And then I'm going to fail for pot.
Oh, and that's a horrible waiting.
Oh, yeah. Like at the very end, too. 1 month left or 2 months left. So the day that I had to show up there was my appointment with the THC doctor in town. And I got my prescription that day, went right to probation, handed it to him, and he was surprised that it was signed and dated that day. Like,
oh, yeah,
you're a lucky fucker.
I can only picture his face. Like,
oh, yeah. But by that time, it only took that month. I was off the Suboxone because I just smoked so much pot. Like, that's what helped me at that time. I was able to completely get off of it. No, I wouldn't say on my own. I had support from friends.
Yep.
Family.
Yeah, we were sitting and playing video games. And
oh, yeah, just keeping busy.
Just smoking weed, playing video games, and working.
Yeah.
You were at
Portver.
Yeah. You
now. That's what they're called now.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was rough, man. But it was the best feeling ever that I got off of that. And the probation officer said, congratulations, and next month's your last month, but don't bother coming in. I'll just do the paperwork and you're done. That felt great.
And once you were off of all that stuff and you started this new life, did you have any complications going through to where you thought about using or you had cravings or anything like that? Were there times where you're like, oh, man, yeah,
well,
I just want to get high?
You see, I started drinking a little bit. It wasn't nothing serious. I took drank a beer or two after work. I started to realize I could control that a little bit. Then I started going through medical problems, man.
Yep.
That was like a devastating blow. I ended up with an infection in my eye that turned into an orbital cellulitis in the bone around the eye.
Yep.
It was extremely painful. And the only way that they had to pull first of all, it made my head swell up.
Yep.
So go to the hospital. What do they do when you're crying? Your blood pressure's through the roof because of pain.
They want to give you stuff.
Painkillers. Yep. At that time, it was non-narcotic painkillers because I refused painkillers. The surgeries, I mean, obviously when they put you under and put you out, they use painkillers.
Yep.
When they're cutting you open. I think I had 4 or 5 surgeries at that time.
Yeah, I remember you had a big scar under your eye for a little while, a big open wound.
Yep, because they localized the infection. They got it drained or to a spot, and they cut it open. And I had to have packing in there for weeks for it to drain. And then it would heal up, and then it would bubble out again, so they'd have to cut it open again.
At that same time, I had shingles, and it got into my eye.
Yep.
And I was seeing an eye doctor, too, at that same time.
Same guy, yeah.
That's what was crazy is we went through something. It was different but similar in a way. And that's when we sat down and started playing GTA.
Yeah.
Like, I was out of work for a couple months, and you were out of work for a couple months.
I think I was out for like 4 or 5, 6 months or something like that.
And I was out for 2. Yeah. I didn't realize shingles was that big. The doctor didn't make it seem like it was a big deal.
No, but it's a big deal, man.
And they prescribed me. It was a painkiller, but it was Tylenol with codeine. Had codeine.
Yep. Still an addictive.
Yeah, it was. But yeah, it got your eye drained, and
now those 4 or 5 surgeries that I had locally didn't correct the problem. So all this time, like the pain I was in, I was thinking, I know how to make the pain go away, and I wouldn't allow myself to do it. I kept smoking pot, smoking
Yep.
a lot then. Ended up going downstate, seeing a good surgeon. He had to drill the bone out in my tear duct. Everything got clogged up and stuff. And leaving there, or right before the procedure, he said, I'm going to prescribe this. Will you be able to handle it? And at the time, I think my mom had brought me down there. And she
Yeah.
said, no, I don't want him on that. That's going to lead to something bad. And I said I didn't want it. And he said, trust me, you're going to want it.
Yeah. I think I remember that.
Yeah. So fast forward a day after the surgery, I did take the painkillers I was given. Very few of them, though.
Yep.
I wasn't
I
taking
remember
them.
you were real careful about that.
Yeah, I wasn't taking them the way that they were prescribed. Typically, when you say that,
It's a bad
It's a
thing, but
bad
you were
thing.
taking less.
right, like less than half of what I was supposed to be taking in a day. Just enough to barely help.
Barely do anything.
Yep. I take Tylenol and ibuprofen. Let's see. That's not the first time, or that's not the only time though. Like, I've had so many problems since then. Like, after the eye stuff, I ended up with stomach problems, where I've had tests and stuff in my stomach and nothing can be
Yeah.
found. Painful. My stomach's always in pain.
Yeah.
Um,
Do you think that stems from the past drug use?
I
You
don't-
just beat your body up a lot?
I don't know. It probably has a huge contributing factor is that I beat myself up. But I, you know, I have family members that have intestinal problems and stuff like that. But every time I go to a doctor, they're like, "You're young. That can't happen to you."
Yeah.
I'm tired of hearing that because I hear a lot of times young people with things that
Yeah.
are pretty serious.
Well,
But
shingles even, like when I went through
Yeah.
shingles, he's like, that typically don't happen to younger people. I
Right,
was like
yeah.
23 or 24 at the time.
yeah, I can't remember how old we were then. That was 2013,
Yeah, so that was a good
roughly.
7 years ago. So yeah, I was
2013,
20.
14.
I was 23, 24.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, so yeah, that I want to say that I've been off of opiates, like abusing them, since September of 2013, and then these medical things are going on. The stomach problems, though, you know, I never used anything for those. It was there was a lot of times though when I was like, "Fuck, this would just end the pain in my stomach. This would end the pain here. This would end the pain there." So, you know, in the back of my mind, I know what I could take to not feel the way I do, but it's not worth it to me. Like, I feel alive even though I
Yeah.
wake up. And
Well, it's like
feel
a sense
shit.
of happiness. Like even when I go to the ER, and it's not even for anything serious, but anytime I go to the ER and
The ER around
they
here is
draw
more like
blood.
a clinic.
yeah, when I go see the clinic
Yeah.
and they draw blood, and it's mandatory for them to do drug screenings.
Yeah.
And whenever they come in, they're like, "Well, we got your results." I was like, "So hit me with them."
Yeah, you
They're
want
like-
to hear it.
They're like, "Well, you failed for THC and everything else is normal." And I'm like, it's like music to my ears hearing there's no drugs in your system.
Right.
You're doing good, dude.
Yep. Well, you mentioned THC, so I want to, during the time my stomach problems were all going on, I started having panic attacks and stuff, which I didn't know that's what they were then.
Yeah.
But ate an edible
Yeah.
and had a
That killed it for you.
yeah, I had a panic attack that I thought I was gonna die. I tried smoking pot after that, and same panic attacks.
Yep.
I can't smoke weed anymore.
Yeah.
I couldn't.
You had
So-
you had got some of that CBD
Yeah.
stuff though.
Yeah, hemp flower that's grown all over the country now.
And I know that helped out with a lot of stuff for you for a little while.
It did, but my latest ailment that I've been dealing with in my throat.
Yep.
It aggravated that to smoke it, so I couldn't continue using it.
Yep.
It did help with my stomach though. It helped with the migraines I get. It helped with anxiety, but whatever is going on in my throat and my chest, that
Yeah.
what I'm currently in the process of trying to figure out what the hell's wrong.
Yep.
Um.
But at least you're staying strong.
Oh yeah.
You know, like, yeah, it's been, what, 7 years? 6, 7 years?
6,
You've
7 years. Yeah.
Been clean?
13. September 13. September of 2013. That'd be
Yeah,
6
7
years
years.
and 6 years and some odd months.
Yeah,
Sorry,
yeah,
2019.
Yep.
Um.
Which is awesome.
Oh yeah. That doesn't mean I haven't taken prescriptions that I've been prescribed. I'm trying to think of another time. I had the same sort of infection in my opposite eye that was caught before. Actually, they didn't give me any painkillers then. I had the same surgery done in my opposite eye though, many years later, 4 years later or something.
Yep.
And took Tylenol and ibuprofen after that.
Yeah, and that worked just fine.
That worked just fine. Well, I was in a lot of pain.
Well, yeah, you're still
They
hurt.
drilled the bones out and stuff, but I dealt with it. Let's see. The most recent thing was when they had to, I don't remember the name of the operation, but it was going in and disconnecting my stomach and tying it around my esophagus. There was no prescriptions after this surgery, but the time I spent in the hospital, I think they were shots of Dilaudid or fentanyl, something like that they were giving me. Now, I knew that was bad because at the time I'm thinking, oh shit, it's fine.
Yeah.
But like always, it's fine. But I remember the nurse saying before I left that, okay, we'll see about getting you another shot before you leave. And then I was devastated that they wouldn't give me that shot before I left.
Yeah.
So in my mind, I'm thinking, holy shit, it only took that day that I was in here to.
That's why you gotta stay strong every day.
Oh yeah.
That's why we're all recovering. There's no fully recovered.
No.
It's a lifelong recovery, and people shouldn't be scared of that, because even though you had medical issues after getting clean, there's a lot of positivity in your life still that happened.
Oh yeah.
After getting clean, like
my kids, man.
You had kids, you got a place.
Yep.
And then you upgraded to a better place.
Yep.
And we're sitting here now.
Yeah. That's another thing that helps me a lot is helping or trying to help other people. I've talked to people, so many different people, about ways that they can try to, get away from their vices.
Oh, we'll get into it in episode 2.
Oh yeah. Yep.
Because one of my biggest contributing factors to getting sober, and one of my biggest what is the word for that? One of I guess my best person in my corner at the time was you, Ed, and we'll get in that episode 2.
Yeah, I mean, I felt good about anybody I tried to talk to. Ed was another thing that helped. He kept me on a different path.
Yeah.
He planted the seed of religion.
Yeah.
It was a newfound thing for me.
Yeah.
And that I put my faith in a higher power, man.
Right.
If it wasn't for that at the time, I don't think I would have succeeded as much.
And for anybody that might not know, because a lot of people might not, Ed was a good friend of ours. He was a guy that we met when we were late teenage years, and someone that we were real close to, and he ended up passing away a few years ago.
He got sober. He quit smoking
everything.
cigarettes. And it's sad because it was too late for him to really change things around.
Yeah,
That's why
he had a lot. He had a lot going for him,
he did.
and we miss you, bud.
Yeah, definitely. That's another thing. What contributed to me using alcohol as a kid was the death of a really
Of a
close
friend.
friend. And then the death of Ed was like another test of trying to get through.
Unfortunately, I was in the middle
Right.
of my, like 3/4 of the way through my drug problem.
Right. Well, yeah.
He died right. I had seen him a couple weeks before. Everything was normal, Hey,
Yeah.
how's everything out there? And I was like, I got to come out there sometime. And I was using it at the time, so I was kind of like a turtle.
Right.
Like, nobody ever really saw me or talked to me unless you were a part of the circle I was dealing with.
That's how I was. It was.
Yeah. I didn't need people knowing what was going on. None of my family really knew what was going on. They were too focused on the other addicts in my family.
Right.
I kind of went by unnoticed for a while.
Yeah.
Because I wasn't taken from them. I was taken from my so-called friends.
Yeah.
Use and take relationships.
Right. That was another thing I wanted to get to was the you can't do it yourself.
No.
As much as somebody thinks they can or how strong they are, like I'm a strong person. Really
you have
strong.
to have
you gotta
support.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Whether that's friends, family, a program that you're in, or a group you're part of, or
as simple as a podcast. And that a lot of our goal here is we want to help people. We want to use our negative experiences that we went through, educate people, and try and prevent it.
Yeah.
And then also on top of that, try and help people that are currently struggling with it.
Yeah, absolutely.
The world's not over. Don't give up. Don't give up. If you're having problems, find a safe place, find safe people to talk to. Even if you have no friends that are...
Reach out to a sober family member.
Reach out to even a sober stranger, because...
Yeah. Go to a meeting.
There's more than...
I've never done that, but go to a meeting.
Yeah. There's more than just us two people that have gotten clean, that the sober community that have gotten clean are some of the coolest, most understanding, most real people you will ever meet in your life. And when somebody wants to get clean and they're serious about it and it's their time, sober people like us and some of the other people in the community will help.
Oh, definitely.
Even if it's just an ear to listen to or share your stories. Like
I'm not good at giving advice, but I'll listen. And if I feel like you could use a certain thing, I'll reach out to somebody that I think can help you.
Yeah. Sometimes it's just as simple as having somebody listen and understand what you're going through, because some people will go and talk to somebody that hasn't been down that road, or they'll talk to somebody that has really no idea what you're going through.
Right. Yeah.
And a lot of people won't talk to people unless they can share some of that experience or been down that road before. Yeah. And that it was a little trick I used when I got clean. Was I reached out to somebody that I knew was clean for a long period of time.
Yeah, that helps.
And asked them what to do.
That brings me back to helping people, man. To me, that was the next big thing after I helped myself, and it's been this many years now.
Yep.
I got my family. I got my job. I've got, everything's going fair for me. I feel like it's time for me. It's helped me helping friends, helping people, giving not really advice, but try this or
Yep.
Uh, I, I think just us speaking and hearing other people speak their stories, it's gonna make everybody feel better. It makes me feel better about the shitty things I've done,
Yeah.
and to try to help somebody else, even if all of this helps one person, it's mission
Oh,
accomplished.
it's worth it.
Oh yeah,
A life is worth a lot more than a price tag.
oh yeah, absolutely,
You know,
absolutely.
not any one person is more important than the next.
No,
We're all just trying to survive, and some people have a hard time through life, and they end up going down the wrong path.
yeah,
And like you were saying earlier, it doesn't matter who you are, where you are, your childhood, your ethnicity,
doesn't
how
matter
much
if
money
you're
you have.
right. Yeah,
It can affect you, and it can help. It can affect the nicest of people. I was straight edge. I didn't smoke, drink, do anything. Some of the viewers on here you're watching right now can attest to it. Like, there's people that would be like, I never would have thought. I'd hear that when I was using. I'd run into somebody that was using that I grew up with, and they're like, man,
yeah.
I never would have
thought.
pegged you for this.
Yeah,
And
I think it was the
because
opposite
I
for
wasn't.
me.
I wasn't meant for that lifestyle, and I think a lot of that helped me get clean. Is I wasn't ever meant to be an addict.
Right.
I was wrong place, wrong time, wrong mindset.
Yep. And that was another thing that got me down, man. Was I didn't hear that like people pretty much would say, I knew this is where you'd be, and you're never gonna come out of it, and that shit hurts me.
Oh,
And
that's
I like to
horrible
prove people
negativity.
wrong.
Well, exactly. It's like what you said. Your doctor had said to you. I had a worker. It was I went into a crisis center.
Yep.
And there was a guy there he told me that there was a 97% chance that when I got out of there that I was just going to relapse and go right back to where I was.
Yeah.
He's like, so it doesn't even matter that you're here.
Right.
And I had never wanted to reach over a table and punch somebody as bad as I wanted to hit that guy, because it's like he just knew. He's like, you ain't got a chance.
Oh yeah. No.
Why you even trying?
Yeah.
And that's the worst.
That's the worst.
That's a
feeling,
horrible attitude and a horrible thing to hear when you're actually trying.
Man. Yeah.
And it motivated me.
Yeah.
I was like,
yeah, fuck you, man.
I was like, yeah, fuck you.
Yeah. That's.
I'm gonna prove this guy wrong. Even if I don't care about all that. I just wanted to prove this guy wrong at that time.
Oh,
you
yeah.
know what I mean? I was like,
Yeah. Well, here's I'm gonna read something really quickly.
yeah, do it.
I'll bring it up on the screen here for people watching. This is alcohol relapse statistics. So, they're it's addicts.
Yep.
Looking at the alcohol relapse statistics can be discouraging, but they don't have to be. Well, there was one long-term 8-year study of almost 1,200 addicts that showed that ultimately long-term abstinence from alcohol can also predict long-term recovery. The research is similar to what's cited in the alcohol relapse statistics. Sorry about all the whistling. If you haven't noticed yet, I don't have teeth.
Yeah.
So, around 1/3 of people who are sober for less than a year will stay that way. But if you can get to a year of sobriety, the relapse rate fails to less than half. Also, according to the same study, if you get the 5-year sobriety mark, your chances of relapsing are less than 15%.
Oh, that's great.
The general theory is that the longer you abstain, the better
The
your
easier
chances.
it is.
Yes, and the chances of relapsing after a long period is very low, but it can happen, and it's not nearly as likely if you're. It can happen, but it's not nearly as likely as if you're only in the first year of sobriety.
Yeah. Well, the first year is all about rebuilding. That's the part people struggle with, because you have to atone for all the stuff that you did when you were using. You have to live with all the things that you did when you were using. That first year is difficult. Not going to lie.
Right. Yeah.
But after that first year, when you hit that first year, it's a weight off your shoulders. when I hit my year mark, it was like people are going to start taking it serious now.
Yeah.
Because there was rumors and everything when I got clean.
Oh, yeah. That happens.
But
Yeah, I mean, 6 years later, for me, I can still run into somebody, and they're like, "Hey, do you know where to get any soaps?" And no, man, I have been off those for 6 years.
Yeah.
Oh, no, there's no way.
Yeah,
Like, that's the reaction.
I ran into it too. Even as early as like 6-7 months ago, somebody would message and be like, "Oh, I got some good down, man.
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
Get it while it's around." I'm like,
no, man.
Hey, newsflash, man. Been clean.
Yeah.
I'm reaching my 3-year mark in April.
Congratulations, man.
For heroin. And we'll cover that here in the next episode. We're actually running out of time.
Yeah, I want to go over a couple more things. Like, I do say that I've been sober for this long, but there was times in between. Like, I just want to get it out there. There's been times in between that I didn't touch my drug of choice, which was opiates.
Yep.
But, would go to a wedding and would drink a lot. Like, a lot.
Well,
but
I consider a relapse when you fall into the past behaviors.
Yep. I agree.
When you get clean, who's to say, like, alcohol wasn't my problem.
Right.
I never had it can.
Right.
But it never was a problem.
Right.
So getting clean and then going somewhere and having a couple beers, that's not a relapse.
No, that was.
But if I go out and I do heroin 2 or 3 days in a row, and then I'm still looking for it or something like that, that's a relapse.
Just doing heroin once would be considered a relapse.
Yeah. Well, yeah. That was the drug of choice.
Right. But yeah, like the wedding I would go to. I went to one wedding, and got trashed. That was fucking 4 years ago, though. I don't think I've drank any alcohol since that wedding.
Well, you weren't technically supposed to drink alcohol anyway. You had damaged your...
I had damaged my liver.
Liver pretty bad.
And that has all been taken care of and straightened out now. It's been 2 years.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah, I know it was a little while.
Yeah. But yeah, I got all that straightened out. Let's see. Just want to come up till now. I mean, we did come up right till now. Like, this is where
and we're going to have part 2s anyway, because there'll be times where we're going to dive more in depth to our stories when we don't have a guest scheduled.
Yeah.
We'll dive deeper. We might even be able to take questions from people.
Yeah, that's another thing, too. I want to get to. I did add a phone number to the Facebook page. You can call that number anytime. Leave a message if you have to, because I probably won't answer it unless we're in the studio on Mondays.
And you can private message me or Trevor with any question, and we will answer it on the show to the best of our abilities. We'll answer them.
And if you want to, you'll remain anonymous if you ask questions. Unless you do it like in a comment or something, then we'll address it that way.
If you want to remain anonymous, and if you have any story you'd like to share but you don't want to come on to the show, you can feel free to talk to us, and we will mention aspects of your story or add it into what we have to say. And we will leave your name out of it. Not everybody wants people knowing their story.
Right.
Or have it linked to them. But there's stories that people can say that might help somebody down the long run.
Right, like my story might not help somebody, but somebody that went through something way worse, their story might help somebody else.
Your opiates, like your stories aren't going to help so much somebody that was doing like meth all the time.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because their story is going to be completely different.
Right, and I mean, we left out a lot of...
Oh, yeah.
I don't want to get into, like, using and this and that,
right.
But...
We'll have some nitty-gritty
it'll
times.
Come up.
Well, you'll hear some stuff that it's like, wow, man.
Yeah.
Because it's a whole nother world. And
It is.
that's the best way that I try to explain to people that haven't been in that is there's a dark world, and then there's the world that you live in now.
Yeah.
That whole dark world is like being in
Totally
a
different.
city that nobody else can see.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
can't. You see people differently.
Yeah.
You see the world differently.
Oh yeah.
Your feelings of
It's-
everything are different. There was
Yeah.
stuff that I thought about when I was using that. Damn, man, I was nuts.
Oh yeah. If you think
I
about
was
that,
nuts.
to think that now, yeah, I think there's something wrong with me now.
Oh,
Thinking,
absolutely.
oh, yeah.
Absolutely. There was something
There-
wrong with me then.
Well, yeah, yeah.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. I know what you mean.
I was fucking dumb.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
That's the best. I was dumb.
Yeah.
That's the best way of
That's the
putting
best way to put it.
it. I was fucking retarded.
Yeah.
Or politically correct. I
Dumb.
was dumb.
Yeah. But that's gonna wrap it up for episode 1, guys. Hope you enjoyed. Hope you got something out of this. Come back and see us next week.
We're definitely looking forward to coming out with more episodes. You kind of got the jitters out of the way there, man.
A little bit. I was
you were
shitting my pants at the beginning.
He was so nervous right before we sat down to do this.
I didn't even know what was wrong with me. Like, what the hell?
You're having a mini panic attack.
I've been so hyped for this all week long. Like, and then we get here and it's like,
yeah, it's
what the
like,
hell?
man, it's real. Like,
yeah. Yeah.
but
I've never put people know my story. People know about what I've done. But
well, it's a nerve-wracking thing.
I've never put it out there for, everybody to hear. Like, it's also like I didn't get into details and stuff.
Yeah.
So it's gonna be even more nerve-wracking when
Yeah.
I get into these details.
Well, and I know we're co-hosts, but I do want to on from Path of Recovery, we do want to thank Trevor for sitting down and sharing his story. It's not easy for some people to sit down and lay it all out on the line, but it is very important and for people to understand the stories and the consequences of using drugs.
Right.
And just creating a general awareness of what, because they don't explain in school. Like, they just tell you drugs are bad. This is what it will do to you.
Yeah, they don't. Yeah.
There's no nitty gritty stories unless you're watching it on TV. And even still, that's to turn a profit.
Yeah, and another thing too is not all people are bad.
No.
Good people end up in bad situations, and what hurts the most is when somebody works so hard to better themselves,
Yeah.
and every day they're treated like a bad person because of what they did in the past.
Mm-hmm. And we'll share that, and
It's gonna,
in my stories are gonna hit home with that specific fact.
Oh yeah.
I was living in a household where I got treated like crap. I just got clean, and I was dealing with cops every other day.
Yeah.
For no reason.
I remember.
And
all
we'll
that.
cover all that.
Yep.
But
Next week.
we'd like to thank everybody for tuning in. This has been episode 1 of The Path of Recovery with Trevor.
And yeah, I totally spaced out. It's been a lot. Thank you guys very much for stopping in, and this is Ryan, and we will see you guys next week.
Thank you for joining us.